I'm Alli. I came out after 20 years of marriage, and I have 3 kids.
I'm Melisa, and I have 2 kids, and I came out at 37 after an 11-year marriage.
This podcast is about coming out later and the struggles and victories that come with it.
When coming out feels like the end of the world, but it's really just the beginning.
This is the Lesbian Chronicles. Welcome to the Lesbian Chronicles in person.
I was going to ask to say it this time.
Do it.
No, it's okay.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the Lesbian Chronicles.
Wow, I guess that's how a professional does it.
I don't know if that was super professional, but yes, we are in person. This has not happened in quite a while.
Sitting at the island.
Yes.
We've graduated from the closet to the island.
The kitchen island. And we've got Malena here with us too. I don't know if she might pipe in here.
Not
and there.
as a guest, more as a co-host.
Yes.
Oh, a co-host.
Yep.
I've upgraded. Thank you.
That's it. Some shows do have 3 people, and I do think sometimes it's really cool.
I do. I mean, we did for a little while.
Yeah.
with Alyssa.
We did for a little while.
So I thought that was fun. It was a nice little third dynamic.
I agree. I totally agree, because I think it's also like at least in I think about my work. Like, we have 3 people who make decisions, and it is nice to have one person that's kind of the opinion tiebreaker, I guess.
Yeah.
You and I are like our lives parallel each other, but we're radically different people. Mm-hmm. So it is like interesting when you throw a third in the mix.
This is true.
Yeah. That's probably why I like you so much, because we're different.
I know. I think that's good.
Yeah, I think it's really good.
Because it's kind of like we challenge each other a little bit, call each other out. Yeah. So
yeah,
it works.
It does work.
I'll be a tiebreaker today.
You can be the tiebreaker
If
today.
needed.
Let's see if we can get into a heated debate.
Okay, I'm
God,
ready.
I don't know if I can handle heated right now.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We don't have to do that.
What we're supposed to be talking about, does my trauma match your trauma?
Yeah. What if you went into a bar and you just said to someone, tell me about your trauma?
Tell me about your trauma. Like that's what you say, like out the gate.
That's your opening line. Well, what's weird though is that is what I'm always thinking. I'm always curious about. Like, that does come to mind for me.
I mean, I have been a little bit too open in some situations about my trauma and quote baggage. I don't know if you remember this story of like, I met this woman at MSR.
Yeah.
And we talked for a little bit, and then later she told me that I had too much baggage. And I was just like,
After an hour?
That's so rude, number one. But number 2 is, why does it have to be trauma or baggage? Why can't it just be like, my life experience doesn't match your life experience?
The things that happened to me in my life.
Yeah. And truly, like, I think about like my own kids. I always think about, what are they going to go to therapy and say? Mm-hmm. But the truth is like, it's really just their life experience. It's not like my kids couldn't grow up and say, my parents did this awful thing to me, because there wouldn't be. It's not awful. It's life experience. It's resilience. It's how they go through the valleys and peaks to become adults that then have resilience that can then go into the world and be productive citizens in society. Without it, there's no value.
Exactly. But it's also like, you're not the parent that's like locking your child out of the house, like
No.
And doing like super traumatic things.
No, I've done a few traumatic
Have you locked your kids out of the house?
I don't lock them out of the house, but no, I don't do that. But I guess what I'm saying is, it doesn't even matter. Like, even if their childhood looks great, there's always something. Yeah, there's always something.
Like I've mentioned that before. That's like how I looked at my childhood for the longest time. Was like, well, it was great. Yeah. And then it was like, well, no, I mean, not totally great.
Not perfect.
Not perfect. They never took me to Disney.
Right. Well, and if it's perfect, like I said, then what do you do next? I mean, it's like you go into adulthood and you're so not interesting. Like, I look at my best girlfriends, they've all been through some shit, and they're like so interesting and layered, and like there's somebody
it's
sitting.
Character development.
It's totally. It's
right?
like people that have it all. My ex-husband and I used to joke when we had babysitters, because like you would have these babysitters that were like these really like basically just rich kids with not a problem in the world, and they're showing up to babysit from their Sea Island vacation.
Right.
But their personalities were like flat as hell. And it was like, we started noticing like the little, like the babysitter that maybe wasn't perfectly attractive, or like
Were you trying to pick your babysitters based on attractiveness?
It was more just like, wow, they have care. Like, they're fun, they're layered, they're interesting, they say funny shit. They're like, I way more want to have dinner with them. It's almost like short guys tend to be more fun because they've had to like develop character versus. I mean,
it is true. Like when you have like that surface level look that kind of gets you a pass in life, you don't have to work so hard as far as like having a good personality. Like people are just kind of drawn to you. It's like tall people. Like tall people are constantly kind of given this free pass of being like hot, especially men. Like, oh, he's hot. And it's like, is he? Like, if we shaved about 5 inches off of him, would you still think he was hot? Like, probably not.
And I guess my point is that when you throw these little wrenches at people, kids, us, like that's what makes you sit across the table with someone and be interesting.
Right.
Otherwise, I don't want to have dinner with you.
However, there are people that like their traumas, their triggers are just not going to like mesh with each other.
Right.
Like there have been a lot of times with relationships that I've been in where I have to be like, I see a tactic that's being used that I am familiar with from dating someone with narcissistic tendencies.
Yes. Oh my God.
And I legit have to be like, you cannot like do the silent treatment to me because it will, even if it's just like you need a moment, like please tell me that you need a moment.
Yeah, right.
Because if you just stop talking to me, I'm immediately going to go back to that place and be like, oh
and
my
I
God.
filed this into. Yeah. It's the same thing happening all over again. And
So same thing with like, don't text me, have a good day.
Oh, I know.
Because I will immediately be like, what happened?
I know. What did I do?
what did I do?
I mean, I know that one so well.
Yeah. So it's like, I guess you can find people like where you do have like a quote opposing traumas or whatever, but you have to find a way to like work together through that.
And that's, I guess now that I'm back in therapy, one of the things she said is like, there's no perfect person for anyone. Like you're not going to go out there and it's perfect. But there are people that are better for you than others based on what they've come through and what you've come through. So it's like you have to have your traumas, yin and yang.
So do you say that when you first meet someone?
Yeah. What's your
like,
trauma?
What's your trauma?
Tell me what your trauma is. No.
Instead of what's your sign? What's your trauma?
What's your trauma? Why can't we call it something else too? Let's come up with a new name. Like what's your life experience? What's
your thing?
Yeah.
I've been re-listening to the book We Are the Luckiest by Lauren McCowan.
Yeah.
She's like a sobriety author, and she talks about like how everybody has their thing.
They do.
And her thing is drinking and alcoholism. You know?
Yeah.
Someone else's might be some sort of trauma from their childhood.
Totally.
But everybody has a
thing for
even that hot babysitter.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe it just hasn't happened yet.
No, or there's just like a flatness. Oh no. Or it's like just a flatness to her face. Like this is not a real study. This is a hypothesis that we had because it's like you're looking at their face. I see adults like this. Their faces are flat. Like the affect is just like, what is happening? Like, say something interesting, please. Like their affect is flat. Like, do you ever
maybe they've just been
like
trained really well.
But is that well, or is that
or trained
not
to
dynamic
like
at all?
Hold it in? Yeah.
Like to me, if you show up at my house, like I expect a level of engagement. I expect
you want it right out the gate, though.
I want you to move
you
your
want
arms.
It right out
I
the
want
gate.
You to smile.
I want you to move your arms.
I want you to like your eyes to flutter.
I will say when someone doesn't move their arms, I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah, you're so flat. Like, what are you doing? So what's yours, Malena? What's your thing?
Oh, my thing.
Yeah, you're on the spot.
Oh boy.
I think I kind of know it. I'm not going to say it. You go ahead.
I guess a lot of things. I guess it just depends on, you mean what triggers me?
Yeah, what triggers you?
What triggers me is, one thing I can think of that triggers me is, I'll put it this way. I kind of know where all my stuff is.
Yep.
And I know where my keys are and my purse is and this and this. And when there's someone who goes, where's my keys? Where's my wallet? Have you seen my shoes? I'm like, oh my God, keep track of your shit.
Right.
Yes.
And I know that's minor, but it just triggers me a little bit.
Right.
And there's others.
Because you are handling it responsibly.
Yes.
The other party is not.
Right.
And
well, that's the thing too. It's like I grew up the oldest of 3 girls, and it was very instilled in me to be responsible. You're the responsible one. You're the responsible one, which isn't always the best. So there wasn't really a chance to kind of maybe relax a little. So maybe part of me kind of envies a little bit that childlike
behavior.
Yeah.
Behavior.
To be whimsical and not care where you put your shoes.
Yeah.
And is it, though, like if you go a level below that, because I think Melissa has mentioned this too, and I wonder if it's similar, you almost like expect someone to show up in you're not looking for someone to take care of you, but like responsibly show up, and it maybe triggers you if you feel like I'm the only fucking adult in the room who's getting me.
I can see that, yes.
Yeah, and like that, you've expressed that before in the past, that like, I don't,
Don't ask me if I brought a snack for you. Or the kids are covered, you get your own snack.
Or if they're, like you've said, you've been out and like maybe somebody's so drunk and you're thinking, aren't they worried about how we're getting home? I guess it's on me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
Like
I've been there too.
Yeah. And it's like, I wonder if like your childhoods have like led you to a place of like, I don't want to have to be so responsible.
Yeah, why am I?
Why am I the one?
Why am I the one?
Yeah.
Why can't I have the fun
Yeah.
that night?
I don't have that in my relationship, but I see that. I've heard you both kind of express that.
And I feel like that kind of happened to me like in my marriage.
Right.
Like I was home alone with the kids for, days on end. He comes home and he wants to play with them. And I'm like, no, stop it. Like they need to go to bed. You're messing up the routine. Like, and I have to be the bad guy. And it's like, why can't I just chill out?
I know,
a little bit,
right?
Like, why don't
and be the
I
fun mom?
Yeah,
yeah.
Like, why
You're
don't
the
I
fun
get the
police.
opportunity to? Yeah, the fun police, exactly.
Did you ever feel jealous of like he would come home and he's wanting to play with the kids, and you're thinking, don't you want to hang out with me? Let's get these fuckers down.
No, he wanted us all to like hang out.
Oh, he wanted
like,
a big
he wanted
family
me
party.
to be there too.
Okay, got it.
Because if
You're
I was
probably
like,
too tired.
I'm going to sneak off and go to bed early.
Right.
It was like he was disappointed if I did that.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
he wanted the family time.
That's I see.
I mean, I
sides.
see exactly.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Right.
But I was also exhausted with toddlers.
Right. So what would you say if that's Malena? Like, what would you say that's not your thing? What's your thing that like is a PTSD trigger for you?
I mean, kind of like what I mentioned about the narcissistic traits. Because I did date a narcissistic man in high school, boy, and dealt with a lot of that stuff, and then have had that experience too in adulthood. And so when I because everybody has narcissistic traits.
Yeah, I was going to say, right, especially
like,
a teenage boy.
I think that term is thrown around really loosely, and it's very rare that someone is like a true definition of a narcissist.
Yeah.
But I have known people that had traits about them. And
give me an example.
Oh man, you're going to put me on the spot.
Well, a high school boy, they all think.
The high school situation. Let's put it this way. He made it sound like he had the grandiose persona of himself.
Okay.
Which is a quality of a narcissist where they think that everyone worships them. And he had that mindset, like that he was like, the best one on the football team. The coach just wasn't putting him in enough.
Oh God.
That these girls were flirting with him and they all wanted to date him, but he had to be like, no, I have a girlfriend. And then like reality was none of those girls
he's ugly and he sucks at football.
Right, exactly. None of those girls were like reaching out to him. He was flirting with them.
Yeah.
Like he was the one that was he wanted the attention.
But are you sure that he wasn't just really insecure?
I mean, well,
I guess maybe
that's it.
Are really
That's the
insecure.
basis of it, was that he was very insecure.
Yeah.
And but it also fucked with my brain for years, as far as like thinking that all these girls wanted him. And as a Scorpio, when I learned that someone wants what I have, it makes me want it more.
Yeah.
And so like if I look back on that relationship and I'm like, I really don't think that thing would have lasted more than 6 months if it wasn't for him acting like all these other girls wanted him.
Yeah, you were scared to give up the prize.
And I even broke up with him about 6 months in, because maybe even less than that, because I just really wasn't feeling it. I didn't feel the like true attraction to him, and he felt more like a friend. And I went on one date with another guy, and my ex-boyfriend shows up on my doorstep as this guy's walking me up to my door after the date. And it's like basically like pouting, like wants to get back together. And it was super fucking embarrassing. And then I got back together with him.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And I'm like, I think about that a lot. I'm like, that was such a dumb fucking decision. And it was based off of like feeling bad for him.
Really worried about something that happened 30 years ago.
I know.
I can't believe I don't even think about that stuff anymore.
Well, did you have this was a very long-term relationship.
No, I guess
this
I
went
didn't
on for
long-term.
about 6 years of he and I dating
For
and
high
like being
school,
off
that
and
is.
on. We went to the same college.
But what about like someone who is like fast forward, who like their trauma is nothing bad. They're not a narcissist. Like I would say my trauma is abandonment. I'm scared of people leaving. So a partner for me that's, easy to run out the door in a fight is probably not the best partner for me.
Right, exactly.
And it's not that they need the space, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So it's like, to me, that's probably not the best match for my personality. I need a soother, a
And
comforter.
I would say that's another thing that I've encountered too with those narcissistic relationships is the abandonment aspect, that anytime we had a fight, it was, we're done.
Yeah.
This is over. I'm leaving. I'm moving on.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. And it
causes so much anxiety.
Yeah. I feel myself go into this like shell of panic.
Right.
Like thinking about that. And it is from, you feel like you're losing. You feel like you're missing out. You feel like there's nothing that you can say to kind of get them back. Whereas they're just saying it because it's a tactic.
Yeah, totally. That's their trauma.
Right. That is
To
their
me, it's
trauma.
like-
So
right.
it's like a domino effect.
Yeah. So you have to kind of decide whether it's fixable or, according to my therapist, it's like it's all fixable. Like you just have to get into it.
And don't you think in a healthy relationship, each person knows the other person's triggers and traumas and would work hard not to trigger that person?
I would sure have
like if I was with Allie and I knew that was her trigger,
You're not going anywhere.
I would say I need 5 minutes of a break,
Right.
or I need to step outside for a little bit. I need to get
It's a
a
whole
cup of
slamming
coffee.
the door, leaving, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that feels really.
And it's almost, I would imagine, talking about it with your partner, and recognizing what's my partner's triggers and what can I do to not bring that up with my person.
Absolutely. And I think it does take like talking about that, because no one can read anyone's mind. And if you don't express what your traumas are or the triggers, like your partner's not going to know this.
No, and let me say, I'm not talking about my partner.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying she does that. I'm
Right.
just saying that would be
It's
someone that
happened,
wouldn't be
though.
good for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, everybody feels that abandonment thing and like that panic.
Yeah.
But that reaction where someone is saying like, I'm leaving and this is done, is, like you said, it is a trauma response, and it's a way of them taking control of the situation.
Right.
Like that gives them the
power.
upper hand,
Right.
taking the power.
Right.
So
Yeah, that doesn't.
I think that's important to realize when someone's doing that. Like they're just trying to grasp at power.
Totally. And I think the better you get at these issues, like it about yourself. Like what I'm starting to do is in therapy, I notice the feelings I have, and I don't try to like put up a big fight against it. I just kind of sit in the anxiety for a minute, and it does pass. And it is like this weird thing where I'm definitely getting more peaceful in my life in general. Like things that normally would have had me completely rattled aren't as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting how like therapy is helping, I guess.
Well,
is
yeah,
the bottom
I
line
think-
is like it's working.
I think the more that we like do therapy, we kind of like dive deeper into like who we are, you are able to like regulate your nervous system more and not lose your shit over each and every little thing. Like there's so many things that have happened to me over the past 6 months,
Yeah.
a year, where I'm like, a few years ago I've been triggered as hell and like freaking out, but
Right.
I'm able to like take a step back. Okay, this is what's happening. Like call a friend, whatever.
Yeah.
And that it's taken a long time to get there.
Right. And it is interesting how if you unload like I have my core people that I can definitely like cry, I can say whatever. And I have this one friend who is like a dear, really good straight friend of mine who I just don't see that often. And when I said to her, she called me and I would just like happen to be in a moment. And I'm like, I'm really not doing well, honestly. And she was like, oh my God, like I have had the worst, like I am the worst I've ever felt right now. Let's get together.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh my God, I'm so glad I said something.
Yeah.
Because then she was like, we need each other right now. And she's right. Like, why don't we do that more?
Because it's scary.
Yeah. But it is like, it's so important that you build these bridges and say what's going on, because then you're so much less alone.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think keeping it in, it's like that it's the shame of it, you know, that makes you want to keep it in.
Right.
Like no one wants to be like, yeah, my relationship sucks right now. Like it's embarrassing and it's shameful. Like,
right.
And so it is like your instinct to like keep that in so that you aren't like feeling that shame from the people around you. But if you have those trusted people, you can say whatever shameful thing that's happening.
And then they do. Like you give them permission to do it back, I guess, is the real thing. Like I'll say one thing really quick, and then I know we have to wrap pretty soon. But my mom, you know, was an alcoholic, and she met this friend. She's 80 now, but she was in her 70s. She met this friend late in life. They totally hit it off. They're like great friends. But she finds out the woman's an alcoholic, or was an alcoholic too. And so my mom's telling me the story, and she's like, yeah, oh my God. And we have, you know, she was an alcoholic. So I feel like I relate to a lot of the stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, you told her about you? My mom's like, oh my God, no, I didn't tell her about me. And I'm like, Mom, what? Oh my God, you didn't tell her?
That's such bullshit.
Like, that's such bullshit. I literally like let her have it. I'm like, you didn't tell her?
That would be like someone coming to you and being like, I'm questioning my sexuality.
Yeah,
I'm having a really hard time with it. And you just be like, oh man, that's a bummer.
Can't relate.
That sounds like a tough road. Good luck.
Good luck to you. Sister, I'm like, Mom, what is the matter with you? I'm like, she just totally reached out to you, basically.
Oh my God.
And you had this amazing opportunity to be like, me too.
Me too.
And you're good friends. She's like, oh God, no. I wasn't about to do that. I'm like, that is insanity.
That really is.
I mean, I'm like, honestly,
let's call your mom now.
Everything I need to know. That's my childhood in a nutshell. If that gives you a little something, a little peek in.
A little tidbit.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
All right.
Well, yes, I think that trauma, we got to talk about it. Maybe not on the first date.
Yes.
Not on the dating apps. Please don't put that on there.
Dating apps.
But eventually, if it's someone who you feel like you see a future with, I think it's a good discussion to have.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, keep it light.
You don't have to unload.
Yeah, just keep it light.
But, you know,
who
a little
hurt
peek
you?
into who hurt you. What is your thing? What is your thing?
What is your thing? There's the name of the episode.
Awesome.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Want to support the Lesbian Chronicles podcast? Rate us and write a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
We love listener feedback. If you'd like to share your story, email us at melissaandalli@gmail.com. That's Melissa, MELISA, and Alli, ALLI, @gmail.com. Or follow us on Instagram at Lesbian Chronicles.